Ladies and gents, welcome to Suji Reaction, and this is classic summarized Dante's Purgatorio. Yeah, I've seen the Dante's Inferno. I'm like, why the hell not? Let's continue the trend, I guess. Yeah, funny story. That half-second long scream took me about 4 hours to record. What? I'm really bad at screaming and or laughing on demand. So I sat down with some videos of the game, Grumps playing horror games, and recorded my reactions to use wherever I needed them. Okay, is it difficult to scream and laugh on command? I don't know, I've never tried it. I now have a 15-second sound file of laughter and screams with varying degrees of shameful girliness. Okay. Part 2 of the centuries-old trilogy has finally been summarized. Surely you awaited this moment with bated breath. As always, I'm happy to oblige. Yeah, Dante's basically, all these Dante's, books about how, Inferno, Purgatory and everything is this, symbolism for how he feels while he's on exile or something like that, right? But it's still fun. I saw the Inferno, it was still fun, how the, Lucifer was portrayed and everything, all the rings of hell and things like that. So yeah. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't like, subscribe, check out the reaction, there's a link in the description, check out the cars of different playlists, check out the end cards, and yeah, let's do this one.
When last we left our intrepid protagonist, Dante Alighieri, he and his dashing guide Virgil had just emerged from hell and out into purgatory. Here, for those unfamiliar with the location, souls that are unworthy to go to heaven, but not bad enough dudes to deserve hell, purge themselves of their mortal sins so they can become worthy of going to heaven. So, Purgatory is a mountain, or more specifically, an island in the middle of the southern half of the Western Hemisphere, on the opposite side of the world to Italy. And, fun fact, Dante, at this point in history, had no idea that the Americas were a thing, so Purgatory was proudly declared to be the only landmass in that part of the world. Oh, the enlightened world in which we live. Anyway, Purgatory is structured as follows. You start at the bottom, climb up through 7 terraces corresponding to the 7 deadly sins, and when you get to the top of the mountain, you can go to heaven.
So I guess in this, in his mind view, obviously at the time, people didn't know Americas existed or things like that. So it's just like, over there's, Purgatory Mountain or something, which if you can climb, going through all these basically sections that probably there will be, just like how there was, different rings, of hell or something like that. In this circles of hell, rings of hell, whatever. So I'm pretty sure there are levels of this, but I'm pretty sure he just created this thing where he's like, there are different sections of purgatory, and when you reach the top of the mountain, that's heaven, because it reaches all the way to sky or something. So I bet anybody who read all those books, and some of the probably obviously the gullible ones, probably kids or something, anybody who read those probably like, oh, look at that, there is actually a mountain there which is purgatory, you can actually climb all the way up to the heaven. That'd be a ridiculous feeling, right, thinking all that.
Terraces of purgatory vary wildly between mildly uncomfortable and hellishly terrifying, which is also a pretty accurate model for the overall tone of the book. Purgatory is solidly between heaven and hell, so it makes sense that it'd be a little inconsistent in tone. So our story begins with Dante and Virgil at the bottom of the mountain, chatting with this old dude Cato, whose job it is to direct the noobs in the right direction. Cato is rather curious as to how exactly the two of them busted out of hell, and Virgil's like, no, it's cool, his dead girlfriend sent us, and Cato's like, young love, and lets them through. While they're there, a boat full of new dead dudes show up, and, purgatory not being burdened with an overabundance of road signs, the new guys immediately get lost. Cato's like, pardon me, duty calls, and starts herding them in the right direction, so Dante and Virgil move on to the lowest part of purgatory, specifically Ante-purgatory, where the people who weren't quite Christian enough to go to heaven have to wait another lifetime's worth of years before they can advance up the mountain to the first terrace. It's boring, but at least it's pretty. Dante and Virgil chill out with this dude Sordello, who's a Mantuan just like Virgil. Sordello tells them that purgatory has only one rule, and it's not don't talk about purgatory. It's impossible to climb the mountain when the sun goes down. You can only advance through purgatory during the day. So Dante and Virgil spend the night in this gorgeous valley in Ante-purgatory where all the souls sing Kumbaya or whatever. And the next morning, Dante wakes up at the gates of purgatory proper. According to Virgil, as soon as the sun rose, some angelic lady showed up and carried the sleeping Dante up here. Hey, easier than walking. Anyway, the gate is guarded by an angel who takes his big honking sword and uses it to carve 7 P's into Dante's forehead, one for each terrace. That is hardcore. Dante should be on an album cover.
So far he's been in the Ante-purgatory, all that pretty scenery and everything, then he basically an angel carries him all the way to the gate, and then he goes like, oh, I guess it's not going to be so bad, and then the guy just takes out a sword and writes P on the forehead. Suddenly turn into horror.
Anyway, as he climbs through the mountain, the P's will be erased one by one as he passes through the terraces. See, it's symbolic of him losing his sins as he climbs up to heaven, and Whatever. If you wanted an in-depth symbolic analysis, you'd be over on SparkNotes right now. So the angel unlocks the gate with 2 keys, 1 silver and 1 gold. Symbolism? Totally symbolism. And Dante and Virgil go on their merry way. One side note before we continue. Similarly to the Inferno, Dante is kind of a rock star in the eyes of the souls of Purgatory, being lucky enough to get the guided tour of the afterlife while not being dead. So he's routinely accosted by people he knows or has heard of, and because this is a near constant thing, I'm skipping over most of that, because who wants to hear me read the 14th century equivalent of the phone book? So the first terrace is devoted to pride, and the souls in this...
Yeah, but why is he so famous? I mean, obviously it's Dante's book. He can write whatever he wants, but, it has to make sense. Why is he famous, apparently? There is no backstory to that. Why is he famous suddenly?
Terrace are weighed down by huge stones that force them to bow. Symbolism! Now, there are a few important differences between Purgatory and Hell. Well, there are a lot of differences between Purgatory and Hell, but the relevant one in this case is that in Purgatory, the terraces are filled with examples of the good side of humanity, and in this terrace, this is displayed through statues and carvings representing humility. So, while the souls are going through suffering and climbing the mountain, they're also seeing what they'll become after they strip their sins away. They're also all singing for some reason, and in my experience, singing while climbing mountains makes the climbing more difficult, but whatever. Symbolism.
Yeah, but this is apparently, I guess... trying to, wash off your sins and everything like that. So it's supposed to be, a hard thing to do. So, how they in the, prisons and things, whenever they are, breaking rocks or whatever, and they're saying, how that thing is. I guess this is equivalent to that. I mean, in your journey, which is hard, obviously, you're trying to wash away your sins. You also sing along to, make sure the journey doesn't feel that long or something like that.
Anyway, Virgil mentions that Dante's a pretty proud dude, and Dante contemplates how much time he's likely going to have to spend in this terrace when he finally kicks the bucket. So they reach the edge of the terrace, and the Angel of Humility pops up and magically erases one of the P's from Dante's forehead. Now it's on to terrace number 2, the Terrace of Envy. Here, disembodied voices talk about the great benefits of generosity. But, unlike in the first terrace, there are no visual aids to accompany the soundtrack, no statues, carvings, none of that. The reason for this becomes clear when we see that the souls in this terrace have their eyes sewn shut. Yeah, Purgatory isn't all fun and games. Dante and Virgil scoot on through to the edge.
Damn, this just went dark. It's, worse than the hell, right? I mean, this is like a, horror show trip.
The edge of the next terrace, where the Angel of Generosity pops up and erases the second P on Dante's forehead. So Dante and Virgil move on to the third terrace, with the corresponding sin of wrath. In contrast with the unsettlingly horrifying nature of the previous terrace's punishment, this one is just swathed in a blinding acrid mist. Dante has a brief convo with one of the souls here about the nature of free will, and then he and Virgil reach the edge of the terrace. The Angel of Peace erases the third P from Dante's face, and they continue on. But before they reach the fourth terrace, Virgil teaches Dante about love. No, not like that. It's because the next 4 terraces are all about sins that are messed up forms of love. That is, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust. Here, sloth is defined as insufficient love. So in terrace number 4, sloth is purged through rigorous use of middle school gym class punishment tactics. That is, running in circles forever. So the sun goes down, and Dante has a dream about a hideous siren who entrances him with a song, but he is snapped out of it by some other lady. And then Virgil wakes him up, and they move on to the gate of the 5th terrace, where the Angel of Zeal erases the 4th P from Dante's forehead. And then they pass through to the 5th terrace, where greed is purged. So on this terrace, all the souls here are, well, stuck, lying face down on the ground. Given that this punishment involves being unable to move, I have no idea.
It certainly seems less than rational to inflict an immobilizing punishment in a realm based wholly on movement. Yeah.
How you're supposed to be able to climb past this terrace, but there's no time to ponder that because suddenly there's an earthquake and everybody starts singing. What is happening? Anyway, then they notice that someone else is climbing the mountain behind them. His name is Statius, by the way, and Virgil asks him what was up with the quake. Statius is like, oh, well, you see, Purgatory isn't affected by normal tectonic or climactic events. Here, we have earthquakes every time a soul finishes up here and is ready to go to heaven. And Virgil's like, huh. So who's the lucky guy? And Statius is like, it's all me, baby. So anyway, our dynamic duo continue upward towards the 6th terrace, where the Angel of Justice erases the 5th P from Dante's forehead. And then it's on to the Terrace of Gluttony.
I mean, so far, this, Purgatory has been, some of them like meh, and they just walk off. Some of them really hardcore and horrifying. Also, the last part was also horrifying if you really imagine it, visualize it. You're there, everybody's just lying there, and suddenly there's an earthquake, everybody starts singing, like, what the fuck is just happening? It's really creepy when you imagine all that scenario.
Where Dante straight up rips off Tantalus's punishment for the penance of this circle. Here, gluttons starve in a forest of fruit trees where all the fruit is just out of reach. Dante's more confused about how dead people can even starve since they don't have to eat anymore, and Virgil's like, don't ask stupid questions. Yeah, you know the drill. Dante talks to some dudes, gets to the gate, the Angel of Temperance erases a P from his face, and they move on. The seventh terrace is lust, and it mixes up the formula a little bit with an enormous wall of flame. Symbolism? So yeah, the relevant souls are in this wall of fire, just kind of chilling. And again, they're baffled by Dante's aliveness. Dante talks with a few of these lusty dudes, and then Virgil's like, okay, now we need to walk into the fire. And Dante's like, excuse you? And Virgil's like, come on, don't whip out on me now. And Dante's like, there is no way I'm going to set myself on fire for your amusement. And Virgil's like, oh, then I guess you don't want to see your dead girlfriend. So Dante and Virgil take a stroll through the fire. When they get to the other side, the Angel of Purity erases the last P from Dante's forehead.
Yeah, so I guess everything is fine, but when it comes to lust, everybody's set on fire apparently, because that's one of the worst things you can do. There you go.
Sun sets and Dante falls asleep, and then has yet another symbolism-laden dream about women. Man, this guy really needs a girlfriend. But yeah, the women in question are Leah and Rachel, two biblical ladies who represent the active Christian lifestyle or something. Anyway, Dante wakes up, and he and Virgil head onward to the last part of Purgatory, the earthly paradise at the very top of the mountain. Wait, did I say Dante and Virgil? See, the thing is, Virgil can't really guide him any further, mostly because he still technically belongs in hell. Fortunately for all of us, this doesn't mean he has to leave. He can still go with Dante, he just won't be guiding him anymore. So Dante makes it up to the earthly paradise, the very top of Purgatory. Unsurprisingly, the earthly paradise is gorgeous and lovely and pretty much the best thing ever. In the earthly paradise, Dante and Virgil find a lady, Matilda, who starts guiding them through the earthly paradise, where they see a procession of a colorful array of characters that we don't really care about because, oh dang, look who's with them, it's Beatrice! That's right, Dante's dead girlfriend is finally here! Yay! But Virgil's gone. No! Beatrice is like, quit crying, this is supposed to be a place of fun. Turns out Beatrice is also pissed at Dante because after she died, he, get this, fell in love with someone else. Because nobody could be as pure and gorgeous as Beatrice, this is something of a cardinal sin, and is, in fact, the whole reason she sent him to hell in the first place. Insert joke about jealous ex-girlfriends here. Dante's still crying, of course, so Beatrice has her four handmaidens push him into
Wait a minute, how did she send him to hell? What? That's just effed up. Alright, this is really confusing, right? Beatrice sent Dante to hell. How can she do that? What, other people can just send other people to hell, apparently? Just because Dante, you know, I guess fell in love with other girl when she was clearly dead. So she was just pissed off because of that. Is that it? Damn.
the river Lethe to calm him down, and also purge his memories of sin, but who cares about that? So Dante emerges from the Lethe, and Beatrice finally reveals her face, which is so entrancingly gorgeous that Dante forgets to blink for a while. Then there's some business with the Tree of Knowledge, and Dante passes out. When he wakes up, he scoots on over to Beatrice, who's chilling under the Tree of Knowledge, and Beatrice is like, okay, some crazy stuff is about to go down. Take notes. Okay, so this is pretty weird, so pay attention. First off, there's this chariot, right? It's tied to the Tree of Knowledge. Griffin put it there. Nobody cares. Okay, keep your eye on this chariot. Boom! Suddenly, eagle. Eagle smacks into the chariot and twists it into a pretzel. Next up, hungry fox jumps into the chariot. Beatrice punches it. Eagle's back. This time, it molts all over the chariot. Then the ground splits open and a goddamn dragon shows up, stabs the chariot, then drags a chunk of it back underground. Okay. So that was weird. Then the chariot grows 4 heads, turns into a giant and a prostitute, and then the giant drags the prostitute off. Purgatory's f***ing weird. So Beatrice spits out a prophecy that somehow...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when Dante was writing that last part, he was on some herbs or something. He was stoned as fuck, let's just say that. Because that was just ridiculous. What the fuck? That was very chaotic. What was even happening there?
Explains everything. I don't get it. Neither does the internet. And they push Dante into another river, which restores his good memories. At this point, he's all set to head on over to heaven. Or something.
Okay, how does Beatrice have all this power? Isn't she another soul like Dante? How is she doing all this shit? Damn, this is just weird. So you may have noticed that threes seem to show up a lot in this, okay? Not just cause it's trilogy, it's actually a thing. Among other things, when Dante's super bummed about Virgil leaving, he repeats his name 3 times, okay? Also an ancient Roman funerary rite. He also kisses up to Virgil a lot. One thing he says is, I recognize the signs of that old flame. This is a quote from Dido, which is from the Aeneid, which I haven't read yet. Okay. I get that, okay. Yeah, okay. That was, you know, Dante's Purgatorio. Okay. That was just weird, man. You know, there is also Dante's Paradiso. DCO, that's after this, right? So there is still more. So I guess he's gonna go to heaven. He found Beatrice and all this shit, and he went to heaven. There's still something left. Yeah, this purgatory was really chaotic. I mean, Dante's Inferno just feels like, Dante's version of hell, and he just added things that, even used in today's culture, sure. Purgatory, he literally created with his imagination. Apparently, Purgatory is not part of the Bible. Always thought it was because all the culture, the TV shows, movies uses Purgatory as a thing, biblical thing. But apparently, it's Dante's thing, not the actual Bible thing. But yeah, this was really chaotic, sewing the eyes shut. All those people just, lying there. Suddenly earthquake starts, they start singing. That is creepy as fuck. Writing peace with the sword on the forehead. Damn. And what just suddenly disappears without explanation, huh? I guess his party's over, he went back to hell. Alright people, that was classic summarized Dante's Purgatorio. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the reaction, this is a link in the description, check out the cards, please check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.